Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at Trinity House. Minister Pistorius, Boris, my friend, welcome to London.
Thank you.
This is your first trip to London, certainly as Germany's defence minister, so it is a real honour for me to host you. Today is a significant day for the UK and German relations and in the history of our two countries. In less than 100 days since I first visited Berlin in July and we kicked off these negotiations together, we have today signed a landmark defence agreement here at Trinity House in London, an historic deepening of the relations, the defence relations between our two countries. So first I want to thank our negotiating teams. They worked at pace and they've helped us secure a deal which forges closer cooperation between our militaries and our industries, which contains immediate actions and longer-term ambitions. Today's agreement strengthens our security. It will grow our economies. And you know, when I was Shadow Defence Secretary before the general election, I had conversations with allies and partners and academics that said Britain needed to play a bigger part in NATO. They said European allies needed to take on more responsibility for European security. And this is the driving force behind our NATO-first UK defence strategy, behind our reset of UK relations with Europe. We share the same threats: war in Ukraine, conflict in the Middle East, growing Russian aggression. We share the same values: democracy, individual freedom, rule of law. And in a more dangerous world, allies are our strategic strength, and we must do more together. But I believed then, as I know Boris, you did too, that the UK-German defence relationship was underdeveloped. The UK and Germany are currently Europe's top two defence spenders. We're currently Europe's top two supporters of Ukraine in military and economic aid. Yes, there's 40 years of great cooperation on fast jets between UK and Germany. Yes, both countries have deployed and operated together in Kosovo, in Afghanistan, and to counter IS. But the collaboration's been ad hoc. It's not been systematic. And there is no fully fledged defence cooperation agreement. And as I started work on this area, with some of you in this room, and I thank you for your contributions, as I started work sometime last year, there were only 28 German military personnel training in the UK. There were only 6 Brits doing the same in Germany. We only had one bilateral German-UK defence industrial programme. So there was huge potential, which we both wanted to seize. The potential and imperative to respond to increasing threats, to strengthen our collective security through NATO, which is the cornerstone for the defence of both our nations. So today we have signed this landmark Trinity House agreement. It secures defence cooperation across all domains: land, sea, air, cyber, space. It will be put on a legal footing in the wider treaty between the UK and Germany. The agreement confirms new lighthouse defence projects between our militaries, and where better to announce these than Trinity House, which is home of England's official lighthouse authority and has been so since 1794. In fact, actually, it goes back longer than that, to Henry VIII, when he took the first steps to maritime regulation from this building in 1514. And Admiral Ian Launer, thank you for your hospitality, thank you for hosting us, and thank you to your teams for helping us organise this event. But in this new agreement, our new cooperation is focused on the now, with our armies training, exercising, innovating more together on NATO's eastern flank, on German P-8 planes operating out of Lossiemouth to help protect the North Atlantic, and on new support for Ukraine through the capability coalitions and also enabling German-seeking helicopters to be equipped with modern missile systems. So cooperation focused on the now and also cooperation focused on the weapons of the future. Developing a new deep strike system together. Pursuing new drones that could operate alongside our tanks, our planes and our warships. Kickstarting work together to protect vital undersea cables in the North Sea. Advancing innovation between our armies to shape the future of NATO warfare driven by AI and emerging technologies. And as well as this agreement paves the way for closer industrial cooperation. So today, Rheinmetall have announced plans to build a new gun barrel factory in Britain, supporting 400 jobs, bringing nearly £500 million of benefit to the UK economy, and re-establishing a critical defence industry for the first time in 10 years. Gun barrels built in Britain, with British steel, for our British armed forces and for our allies. And from artillery to AI, from the weapons of now to the weapons of the future, Helsing have also confirmed today a new investment of £350 million into the UK for the development of AI systems. So this shows today's agreement gives renewed confidence to investors in the UK defence industrial base. And finally, just to give this a bigger context, our new government was elected in July to deliver change. Before the election, we promised a new defence agreement with Germany in 6 months. We've signed this landmark agreement in less than 4 months. This is what turning talk into action looks like. This is what resetting relations with Europe looks like. This is what growing our economy looks like. And this is what a NATO-first defence strategy looks like. And today's agreement also sends a signal to our adversaries. We will deter and we will defend against any aggression together. Boris, I look forward to working closely with you in putting this agreement into action. Today really is only the start of new, deeper relations between our two nations. And yes, politicians may come and go, but the Trinity House Agreement will live on, and it will keep our countries and Europe safer in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more delighted to be here in Trinity House in London for my first official visit in UK since being in office. So thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for the invitation and your hospitality in this tremendous place of British history. So thank you very much for that occasion to be here, and thank you for your invitation, John. Please allow me 2 personal remarks. John and me, we haven't been knowing each other for a long time. But still, we met more times than I met some other colleagues in Europe or beyond. And even my wife told me sometimes she's got the impression I'm meeting him more than her. So we have really a very close partnership. We built it up in a very short term. And I'm very thankful for a colleague like you, because I'm sure about what's going on. We will work together very trustfully and friendshiply. So thank you very much for that. And the second remark is, my link to British military reaches very long back in my life. And that means, because I'm 64, very long back. Because I grew up and was born in Osnabrück in Lower Saxony, the city of Westphalian peace, as some of you probably know. But more of you probably know what Osnabrück means in the history of British troops. Osnabrück used to be one of the biggest, or even the biggest, garrison outside UK. And I was born there, and I said goodbye to our British friends and partners in 2008 when they left Germany in a awful weather, like raining out of tons. And how do you call the hats of the guards? They were so heavy they had to put it off because they were full of water on that day. And we used to say on that day in Osnabrück, the sky is crying because the British friends are leaving. So therefore my link to British military is a very old one. So I'm very pleased to be here. And indeed, this is a very special day for me too, not only personally, as I just emphasized, but as well and even more as a defense minister of Germany. It's the beginning of something very valuable. The many projects envisioned by the Trinity House Agreement will, first and foremost, give us one thing: more security in Europe. And at the same time, this agreement represents an opportunity. The opportunity for the United Kingdom and Germany to draw closer. And that is a welcome thing in times like these. In the face of Putin's policy of division and destruction, we are offering something else: solidarity and trust. Together with you, John, we will implement concrete projects to further improve our deterrence and defense capabilities. What has been important to both of us is that all of our projects are open to our European and international allies and partners. It's not a closed shop. We are always, and we know that today even more than ever before, strongest together. I cannot list all the projects we are planning. There are too many. But I would like to mention some that are particularly close to my heart. First, on NATO's eastern flank. We will further strengthen NATO's eastern flank by further intensifying our cooperation on site. In other words, our armed forces will step up their joint exercising. We will also see whether and how we can advance the combined employment of drones and tanks. And we will handle our logistics, our storage, and our supplies together. Or on the defense industry. We just heard about Rheinmetall and Helsing. We will see to it that defense companies are given contracts, that jobs are preserved or new jobs created, and there is a long-term planning security for manufacturers. It is only with long-term contracts that production lines can be expanded and our requirements can be met sustainably. We are making this happen. On research and development, joint exercises and the production of weapons and ammunition are essential for our armed forces and therefore for our security. Beyond that, we are also thinking about the future, of course. This means we must conduct research and development together. And we must continue to provide our servicemen and women with the best possible state-of-the-art equipment. That is why we are committed to closer cooperation on research and development in the area of uncrewed aerial systems. That way we can better ensure compatibility of our systems. It is crucial that we increase our option of using the same systems. We know that the systems of the future will be exceedingly complex. Future aircraft and drones will be highly complicated. High-tech devices capable of communicating and operating with each other. That makes joint development all the more important. Or, as for other joint projects, we will develop new standoff weapons with our partners, with extended ranges and improved precision. We will enhance our protection of critical undersea infrastructure and, to this end, generate even more detailed situation pictures. We will expand our air defense together with our partners. Operating out of Lossiemouth in Scotland, German P-8 planes will episodically contribute to the protection of the North Atlantic. That way, we will be able to better protect European airspace against the threat of long-range missiles. Ukraine. In closing, let me make one thing especially clear once more. We will continue to support Ukraine together. For months, Moscow has been unleashing massive airstrikes on the country killing civilians and destroying the infrastructure as well as Ukraine's economic base. This is why we must continue to strengthen Ukraine in its struggle to defend itself. Germany is supporting Ukraine with more than €8 billion only this year. In addition to many other measures, we have provided Sea King helicopters. In cooperation with the United Kingdom, we will now equip them with modern rockets. And we are cooperating with the UK on helping Ukraine develop its own deterrence and defense capabilities as part of what we call Capability Coalition, as John just mentioned. John, the Trinity House Agreement will be part of an intergovernmental agreement between the United Kingdom, I'm sorry. I just met Lloyd last week, so between the United Kingdom and Germany, that is to be signed early next year. The fact that we are taking the first step in that direction today shows that we are playing our part in British-German relations. This is an important, very important milestone in our cooperation and in our partnership. And it is an opportunity. I'm glad that we are both wholeheartedly embracing this opportunity, and I thank you for your trust. And let me put it together. What we are doing here and what we have been doing during the months before, and what we are doing in the months to come and the years to come, is nothing less than to protect what matters: freedom, democracy, security, and trust. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I'm now, if you'll bear with us, the rest of you, going to take 6 questions from the media in turn. I'm going to start with Johnny Beale, BBC.
Thank you very much, Defence Secretary. You're strengthening a relationship here with Germany, a defence relationship. But are you, your party, in danger of burning bridges with another key ally, the United States? The Trump campaign has accused your party of political interference. This morning, you've accused them of creating a controversy. So can you address that? And if I could ask Minister Pistorius, you have said this is about strengthening Europe within NATO. Is it also about Trump-proofing European security in NATO? Because you are worried about a Trump. I know the election hasn't happened yet, but it is a worry for many European allies. Thank you, given what he said in the past.
Sure. Look, any individual Labour supporters that are over in the US being part of the Democratic election campaign are there as individuals. They're there in their own time. They're there at their own expense. And if they've got accommodation out there, that will be also provided by volunteers. This happens in every election. It's commonplace. It is very different to the determination of a Labour government to work with whoever the American people elect next month as their president. And just as the UK and the US have a special, deep relationship and have had for decades, that's a relationship that has withstood the political ups and downs on both sides of the Atlantic, and we're determined to make that work in the future.
Creating controversy, do you stand by those words?
This is in the middle of an election campaign. That's the way that politics works, Johnny Beale. You've been around almost as long as I have. These are volunteers doing their bit and getting a bit of experience out there, but doing so as individuals.
Well, thank you very much for your question. And in the first place, I would like to apologize for my very strong German accent, but I can't change it any longer. I'm too old for that. But let me emphasize that I've always been stressing during the last 1.5 years since I came in office that would be a strong and a wrong answer to say, we have a German saying, let us start another way. Es ist falsch, wie das Kaninchen auf die Schlange zu starren. It is wrong to, I don't know whether it's correctly translated, it would be wrong to look like the rabbit onto the snake. I mean, the elections in Washington will have a result whatever. What our responsibility in Europe is to strengthen the European angle, the European pillar of NATO. This is what we should have done earlier, from my opinion. I'm convinced about that. What we didn't. I always stress that the Baltics and the Scandinavian countries, they woke up in 2014 with the annexion of Crimea. We woke up too, Germany, Britain, France, and other countries in Europe. But what we did was we pushed the snooze button and turned around. All the other countries stayed awake, and they did what was necessary to do. And so we lost almost 8 years. And we have now to speed up. And therefore it is, of course, of importance, because we trust on the Euro-Atlantic alliance and the Euro-Atlantic solidarity and friendship. But besides that, we have to do more, because in any way, the US will shift their focus more to the Indo-Pacific for reasons we all know. So it is only a question of, will they do much less in Europe because of that, or only a little bit less? But anyway, we would have to do more, and this is our task.
So you should very much see this as an agreement setting out to reinforce the European leadership within NATO, and as Minister Pistorius has said, not a closed shop, but what we want to develop, what we want to drive together is there for other European partners to join as well. Annette Dietet, please, from ARD.
Yes, hello. A question to both of you. You've depicted this treatment, as this agreement, as a very important milestone, but also as a first step to a more wider and broader intergovernmental treaty that will be signed beginning of next year. Could you maybe give us an idea of what areas will be in there as well? And this goes beyond, that's what Starmer said in Blenheim Palace when he announced that, this will go beyond the pure industrial cooperation and defense and security. So could you give us an idea of where this will lead? I mean, what the next step will be from here?
Well, as far as I'm informed, the negotiations about that treaty will be finished in the beginning of the year, the latest, maybe even earlier. And I'm only the defense minister. I have enough to work with my business. But as far as I'm informed, it's about cultural exchange, it's about industrial politics, it's about almost everything. And it's necessary to do that, to make that restart after a long period. So I really appreciate that decision to do that together and to do it so quickly together. So I'm quite convinced that we will have, in the beginning of the year, the signing between your Prime Minister and our Chancellor of this treaty.
In which way is that a reset of the EU relations, John Healey?
Yeah, look, this is an ambition to strike a wide-ranging friendship treaty. Boris has said the timescale that's likely to be concluded on. That treaty will give legal effect to the defence agreement we signed today, and defence will be the first pillar of that new and wider friendship treaty. For us, I think we're just getting on with the job. You know, we're humble defence ministers. We see the increasing threats that our countries and our alliance faces. We know the concerns that our people have about increasing insecurity, increasing aggression, particularly from President Putin. And our job is to get on and put into action what we've agreed today, and to develop for the longer term the weapons of the future. That means our troops will always have the edge over adversaries. And in that way, we can also help set new standards, as well as new innovation within the NATO alliance, doing what we've both said, Europe nations taking more responsibility for the heavy lifting and the leadership within the NATO alliance.
Thank you.
Larissa Brown, please.
Thank you. Minister Pistorius, sorry, over here.
Over there.
Hello. You've not supplied the Ukrainians with Taurus, and you also held up the delivery of the Leopards to the Ukrainians. I'm just wondering if you've changed your mind on Taurus at all, and you will supply those to the Ukrainians. And with regards to this agreement to build long-range missiles, can you give assurances to the UK that you wouldn't block Britain from giving weapons such as those to the Ukrainians or other allies in future? And Secretary of state. I'm just wondering if you think that Israel's acting with proportion in Gaza and Lebanon. And do you think that the British military would tolerate the same civilian casualty rate in a similar conflict? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your questions. In the first place, we did not change our opinion when it comes to towers, not at all, because of reasons I'm not allowed to discuss publicly. Second, the development, the work on deep precision strike weapons will take some years, as we all know. Therefore, it is not on me to discuss the question whether we would allow hypothetically, how do you say? Hypothetically? Hypothetically, yeah, okay, you know what I mean. To discuss it now, because it's just not the time for that. We will discuss all that questions if the time has come. But of course, everybody is discussing the issue and the challenge of giving free the long-range systems for Ukraine, but we won't deliver towers. This is still the decision of the German government.
And on the Israeli action in Gaza, like in Germany, we recently marked 1 year from October the 7th, when Hamas terrorists launched the most deadly attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. It also triggered more than a year of conflict in which the rate of civilian casualties in Gaza has been too high. That is something that I have said directly and consistently say to Minister Gallant in the conversations I have with him. And we have always argued, both in opposition and in government, that the conduct of the conflict must be conducted in line with international humanitarian law. But we've also always argued that we stand fast with Israel's right to defend itself and Israel's right to go after the terrorists that carried out that dreadful attack on October the 7th. Hilke Peterson, please.
Over here, with ZDF German television. It's a question to Minister Pistorius. I'd like to know, the agreement is also open to other partners, as you just mentioned. Might this have a possible negative impact on traditionally close relations that Germany has with France?
In the opposite. France is involved. We talked to our French friend, and me particularly with my colleague and friend Sébastien Lecornu, about everything in this agreement we are talking about, which has any concern for France too. So they know it and they agree, and they will join, I think, in any way, I don't know, but they are absolutely involved and they are fine with what we are doing.
Thank you.
Geraint Vincent, please.
Mr. Healey, does this still make it easier for the government to hit its target on increasing defence spending, or does it make it easier not to hit it?
This defence makes no difference to the commitment that we set out at the election and that we maintain now, that we are a government that will set a clear path to spending 2.5% of our GDP on defence. It will be the first time that this country has done so since 2010, also with a Labour government. That was a commitment that Keir Starmer reaffirmed in our first week in office at the NATO summit in Washington. It's a commitment which the Chancellor has reaffirmed this week, and we are a government that will always do what's required to defend this country.
And when do you think you might hit that target then? And what did the Chancellor say when you told her that there was a deal now that the Germans were going to make our gun barrels for us?
So I'm not going to say anything that might affect the announcements the Chancellor will make at the budget in 10 days' time. But she welcomes, of course, the inward investment and the new gun barrel factory. She welcomes, of course, the inward investment from Helsing, announced today as well. And she'll welcome the fact that for both important German companies, German UK companies, this is a vote of confidence in the UK. It's a recognition that this agreement creates the long-term confidence that our militaries will work more closely together, our industries can work more closely together, and that we are committed not just to the weapons that our troops need now, but the defence of our countries and NATO needs for the future. Christoph Meyer, please.
Chris Meyer, DPA, German press agency. This is to both of you. How concerned are you about reports that North Korean soldiers are now fighting on Russia's side in Ukraine? Does this constitute an involvement, direct involvement of North Korea in the war, and how should the West react to that?
We are checking the implications with regard to international law at the moment, but anyway, it is a new quality in that war we have to deal with. I don't know what is really the advantage they promise each other by doing that. I mean, we don't even know whether we are talking about 1,500 or 12,000, or which kind of soldiers are coming to Russia and to fight where and against. I don't know that. I know whether you have other information, but in any way, it is a new quality. It is a kind of escalation, and it shows us a very important aspect. International conflicts are approaching very rapidly. North Korea providing ammunition, weapons to Russia. Russia providing on the way, likewise, technical systems and oil and gas and so on, does have an impact, for example, for the security of South Korea. North Korean actions have an impact on North Korean and Chinese relationship. This on this side has an impact for the relationship between China and Russia and India, and China and India and Russia. So we see international conflicts are getting more and more closer to each other and linked to each other, which makes it not really easier to deal with them and to get an approach for de-escalation and for respecting, finally, multilateralism in our world. So I'm quite concerned about that development.
I share that very serious concern about the reports of this development. We both totally condemn this as a potential escalation, as Minister Pistorius has said. It looks highly likely that North Korean troops have been deployed into Russia. It is certainly not clear yet that they've been deployed to the battlefront. We know that North Korea have been providing weapons and ammunition to Russia. I see this as a sign of, in fact, desperation, as well as a shocking escalation on North Korea's front, a desperation from Putin that he's having to reach out and develop a growing alliance of aggression with a country like North Korea. And Minister Pistorius is absolutely right. This is not just a concern about the potential for an escalation of conflict in Europe. There is an indivisible link with security concerns in the Indo-Pacific as well, and that was one of the areas of discussion for Minister Pistorius and I when we met last week as defence ministers at NATO in Brussels. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you again all for joining us this morning. Thank you for marking this historic morning, historic agreement, and I hope you'll follow and keep us up to the mark with the action that we will take from today to put this into practice. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.